Hey! What's up, Googans? Beef here, flying solo today for After Drill. Boy, Drew has a doctor's appointment. Hopefully, I'm not revealing too much about him by saying that. No HIPAA violations with me. Welcome in, though. After Drill, every single weekday, brought to you by our friends at the UPS store in Ponte Vedra Beach. A good hump day edition of the Drill today. Lots to tackle. Of course, it's Titans week. You know, the dreaded Tennessee Titans roll into town. On paper, it looks like, advantage Jaguars, but again, we thought that was the case last year as well, and fresh off a big win in Houston in week one, the Jags came home and they laid an egg against this Tennessee Titans team last year, and they also lost the finale. They got swept by the Titans. That game, though, was a throwaway, so I'm not even talking about that game. But, on paper, it looks like a game the Jaguars should win, but hopefully they're not looking past this game and forward into the tougher, more treacherous elements of their schedule moving forward. They need to take this Titans game seriously, even if, as it looks like, Marcus Mariota still may not play. Key members of that Titans offensive line dealing with injuries, especially Taylor Lewan, who had a really bad concussion in the Titans game this weekend. And, still, this is a team that shows up for the Jaguars for whatever reason. They show up for this team. So you can't overlook Tennessee and think you're going to cruise. Tennessee will come in ready to play. This is a big game for them, big statement game. They're trying to prove that they belong in the division mix, that they belong to be taken seriously as a playoff team last year, that they haven't taken a step back under new coach Mike Vrabel. So you can't overlook the Tennessee Titans. It's a big game, and the team yesterday kind of put out a message encouraging fans, that if you feel like this week is like last week in that tickets are just super tough and you're not going to be able to get them, it's not the case. There's still some tickets available down at TIAA Bank Field for as little as $40. You can get down there, go watch the Jaguars take on the Titans in a really critical AFC South game, our first division game of the year. So it's critical. It's a big time game. You don't want to say week 3 is super critical ever, but I mean, if week 2 against the Patriots was a super critical big game, then week 3 against Tennessee is at least on par as far as being important and critical. Good morning, Tom, to you. On top of that, we had a good time on a Wednesday like we always do. We had Get Smart John joined us, and we almost got that perfect game. He skunked us on a Civil War question that honestly we probably should have gotten. So you got to take that L and roll with it. Of course, we had brunch with the Tour. The golf schedule now winding down. Tour Championship this week. They'll crown a FedEx Cup champion. Then the Ryder Cup next week, and then that's it. Now, of course, with golf, the next schedule kicks off in a matter of weeks. But yeah, that's it for the 2018 season. It's about to be a wrap. There's only a handful of guys contending for the FedEx Cup title at this point, so it's winding down. And next year there's a bunch of changes, obviously. So, tune in for Brunch with the Tour next week. Reimer will be back in town. He was in Atlanta today, but we'll go more in depth into all those changes coming on the schedule next year in the world of golf. It's a lot going on that's going to change the way fans approach the game. And don't forget the Players moves to March. So that's obviously a huge change that affects us locally here, is that the Players, after having been in May now for a decade and change, or a decade or so, and now going back to March. So that means, cooler temperatures, but that also means, increased chance of rain, and I guess maybe a less glamorous spot on the PGA Tour schedule, but we knew that was coming when they wanted to get the season finished before football season. This was the price that was going to have to be paid, that the Players was going to have to move up because the PGA needs to move up, and all these things have to happen. So that's where we're at. And but first things first, golf can wait, man. It's football season. Alan, I happen to agree with you. The Drill is the best show ever. Appreciate you for listening, buddy. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you watching After Drill with us. Thank you. If you like After Drill, please hit that like button down there. I hope I'm pointing at it. It's somewhere. It's over here, or maybe it's over here. I don't know. My camera's backwards on this thing all the time. My shirt, I'm sure you're reading it backwards. But yeah, we're pumped for Titans week, and we're trying. We're getting super hyped around here because the power rankings came out, and the Jags are one in some and two in others. Tony Kornheiser, who is a longtime noted Jag hater, picked the Jags for the Super Bowl, and it's we want to get hyped on these things. We want to get super pumped on these things, and as fans, you should get into it, enjoy the ride. This is why you suffer as a fan, is for years like this, times like this. Sports is one of those things. As you get older, and I'm sure a lot of you guys watching it, can relate to this. As you get older, you realize, like, man, there is so far more disappointments in your sports fandom life than there are moments of pure elation. But it's those moments of pure elation that you live for as a sports fan. You live for big primetime football games. You live for AFC title games. You live for a chance to go to the Super Bowl, or for a World Series berth, or for an NBA title or an NCAA title. You live for those things. It's like that's the stuff you live for. Those things that's hard to do. So unless you're one of these fans that's been blessed to be a fan of one of these dynasty type teams, they're few and far. So when you get that chance, when the window's open, you need to milk every drop of pleasure you can from it. So don't let anybody sit there and tell you, to not get ahead of yourselves right now, to not get overhyped, to not get too crazy about the Jaguars being high in the power polls and people picking them for the Super Bowl. Screw that, man. Enjoy every second of it. Enjoy it. Enjoy people thinking your team's the bomb, because right now they are. And it's not going to last forever. The window doesn't stay open forever. Teams like New England, where they stay in contention for 15 years, that is a aberration. That is an anomaly. That's not a real thing. The window is 3 to 5 years. That's what it is. And then it slams shut on you. There's a lot more teams that have been like Seattle right now than have been like New England. You get the right batch of guys, you flare up, you contend, and then through attrition and age and parity, you come back down to earth. And you see that happening in Seattle right now in real time. That team, my goodness, it was just 3-4 years ago, seemed unbeatable, just an absolute juggernaut. And now they're mostly a joke. Those guys that mattered there are gone, and it's mostly just Russell Wilson and a bunch of pieces, and it's not enough. They're not that good, and it didn't take long for them to go from really good to not that good, and that's what can happen here. We hope that's not what's going to happen here. We hope that Dave Caldwell and Tom Coughlin will find the right combination of guys and manipulate the cap and extend the right guys and draft well to replace guys that need to move on because they price themselves out, and you could stay in the mix. That's the way you stay competitive, is you have to draft well to replace the guys that come in. Guys start aging out and pricing out. That's what you look at. Baltimore's a good example of that. Ozzie Newsome has drafted so well there, and they've done a great job of finding young stars to replace their aging stars and keep themselves relevant. They haven't reached the super duper heights every year, but they've always remained a factor. They've always remained competitive. They've always remained a factor. Matthew, good morning. Yes, flying solo today. Drew had a doctor's appointment. I don't know what's wrong with him. I'm not sure. He's Lord only knows. He's a very, very he's a wild man. So who knows what could be going on with him. I hope he's fine. Probably just a cold or something, but I'm sure he's okay. But we'll see. He should be here tomorrow. You guys can ask him. Hit the comments. Ask Drew, what disease do you have? And find out what drugs they gave him to get it cleared out of his system. I kid because I care. So we're ready for Titans week. It's also a big week if you're a Florida Gator fan because it's Tennessee week, and that was in just a heartbreaking, awful year in Gainesville last year. I mean, the one bright moment they had was that Tennessee game. The big Hail Mary pass from Felipe Franks that won that game against Tennessee. That was really the brightest moment they had in a lost season under Jim McElwain. That was it. That was really their biggest moment. So, it's a big week. Tennessee week's always a huge week. And Florida also put out their 2019 schedule, and Auburn finally making a return visit to Gainesville. It's so rare. I think Dan had the numbers. He said that going back to 2008 and looking ahead to 2000, all the way to 2030, that Auburn will have come to Gainesville. I think he said one time. So it's yeah. No, Matthew's right. Florida does not look good this year either. I guess there's still time to figure it out, as with any team. But yeah, I mean, if Kentucky's any indication of how they're going to perform against SEC caliber competition, and Kentucky's not a good SEC team, they're an okay SEC team, then it doesn't look like it's going to be a fun year for the orange and blue, and it's not going to be a fun year in Tallahassee either for Willie Taggart's Seminoles, where that might be the worst offensive line I've seen in my life. That is hot garbage, and yeah, they held a players only meeting because those always work. So that's, everything should be right as rain now in Tallahassee because we had the players only meeting. Those things are, a surefire solution to turn everything right around is the players only meeting. The Noles, I think they're a 10-point favorite against Northern Illinois, my Northern Illinois Huskies, who roll into Tallahassee. Do I think Fowler gets a new contract and comes back next year? Well, it depends on where he signs because he'll get a new contract somewhere. And if they're on the Jaguars schedule for home dates next year, then yes, he will come back next year. No, Dante Fowler won't be back here. That's just the reality of it. I know he's playing well right now off the suspension. He had a big game against New England. Pro Football Focus said that he was the highest rated edge rusher in the NFL Sunday, which is really saying something because if you watch Khalil Mack on Monday night, he looked like the greatest defensive end that's ever lived. So for Dante Fowler to grade out, depending on how you feel about Pro Football Focus, I know Dan is not a fan of Pro Football Focus. He doesn't care what their grades say. Other people think they're a terrific resource, and I'm kind of in the middle. Some of their analysis seems to make sense, and some of it leaves me scratching my head. But Fowler had a monster game, and he was an impact player. But, Fowler's going to have an impact all year because he's playing for his next deal somewhere else. Dante Fowler's not going to be here, and that's just the reality of it. I don't care how well he plays. Unless he goes and runs off, some 17-sack insano monster year, he's not going to be here. As much of I don't know if they draft another D end. I don't know. Probably because look, I mean, Tom Coughlin came from the New York Giants, and I think Dave Caldwell's adopted this philosophy too, and it's one that I happen to agree with, man. One thing you can never, ever, 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 ever have too much of in the NFL is pass rush, man. There's no such thing as too many pass rushers. Those jokers got to come in waves. You got to take guys out, and the guys that come in, you need to also be able to rush the passer. That's the way it works in the NFL. That's how you get successful on defense. The quarterback can never take a break. He can never exhale. Should always be concerned about who's coming off that edge. And if you let Dante Fowler go, then yeah, maybe you draft another guy or you sign a veteran. I don't know. The thing is, they can't pay Dante Fowler what Dante Fowler is going to command as a free agent. There's just too many guys on this team. There's higher priority dudes who need to be paid, and that's just the reality of it. This is the reality of the NFL. You can't keep everyone. You can't pay everyone. The cap is constrictive, and they're fortunate right now because Blake Bortles is on a team friendly contract. Leonard Fournette's on his rookie deal, but I mean. They just paid Andrew Norwell. They're already paying Brandon Linder a lot of money on the offensive line. Let's not get started on all those dudes on defense that are already making fat change. Something's got to give there because at some point, very soon, you're going to have to make decisions about contract extensions for Yannick Ngakoue, Jalen Ramsey, Miles Jack, and down the line. And at some point, high-value, high-dollar dudes like Marcel Darius, Malik Jackson, Calais Campbell, A.J. Boye, Barry Church. Those guys, at some point, you're going to have to make a decision on exactly what your ROI is on those guys and if you can afford to keep them on your team. At some point, something's got to give. If you're going to pay Jalen Ramsey probably $20 million a year, thereabouts. If you're paying him that money, that's money that somebody else is currently making, and they're going to have to. Someone's going to have to go. Matthew says, "Are we going to win the Super Bowl and lose a lot of talent after it?" I don't know. How about we cross that bridge after we win the Super Bowl, Matthew? Let's do that. That's what I gotta say. Alan says, Jags 37-10-17. I don't see it that much of a blowout. I like the enthusiasm, Alan. I appreciate it. I don't see the Jags scoring that many points without some defensive scores. That's just the way it is. But yeah, let's go get it, and let's go get this win, and let's go keep marching towards the Super Bowl. I mean, your question right, Matthew. And this is look. If you haven't watched the 30 for 30 documentary on the '85 Chicago Bears, you should. It reminds me a lot of where this team is right now. This is a young team with a super ferocious defense, but at some point, attrition wills out, and it's just the reality of the National Football League. With a salary cap and guys trying to get every dollar they can, and understandably, I don't blame the players for trying to get paid and trying to get every single dime they can get. The window of earning for an NFL player is narrow, and they've got to get every dollar they can. So at some point, some dudes are just going to be good enough, and if this team is a Super Bowl team, then some other desperate, hungry, panicky team is probably going to overpay for some of your guys, and you're going to have to let those guys go. You can't keep them all. And you have to identify who your core guys, who those essential guys are. And I feel like on this defense, in the next 2 years or so, when guys like Calais Campbell and Marcel Darius and Barry Church and Malik Jackson are a little older, that's when you have to decide, who your core is. And your core right now, if you were to name names, is Jalen Ramsey, and it's Miles Jack, and it's Yannick Ngakoue. And those are your core defensive players that you can't afford to lose. You can build around that, but you can't afford to lose those three. Those are your guys. Those are your playmakers. Those are your different makers on defense. They have to stay. And, if that costs you other guys, so be it. Then that puts the onus on Tom Coughlin and Dave Caldwell to draft. And they've drafted spectacularly the last few years. And they're going to have to continue to do that. They're going to have to find gems. If they pay Yannick Ngakoue, then it's on Dave to find the next Yannick Ngakoue in the third round. So you can live on his third round contract for a few years and have an impact player that you don't have to pay like an impact player. Yeah, but at some point, when you have impact players, at some point they have to be paid like impact players. And that's where we're at right now. At some point, not too far from now, Jalen Ramsey's going to be ready to get paid, and he's going to want a lot of money. Does Cole get a new deal if he keeps playing like he is? Well, I don't know. I don't know Keelan Cole's contract situation. I don't know when his contract is up as an undrafted free agent. If he keeps playing like he is, then yeah, absolutely. Because right now he's playing like he's the best wide receiver on this team. Will that continue to be the case? I don't know. But with Marquise Lee hurt and other guys having not really stepped up and showed out just yet, the position is prime for Keelan Cole to show that he's the guy. He certainly looks like a legitimate star-type player right now. But the sample size is small. He's had one great season and a couple great games and one spectacular all-time highlight reel catch Sunday against New England. And if he continues to do those things, then you've got more questions to ask and answer. And if you're going to pay Keelan Cole, then that raises the stakes again as far as you can't pay everyone. You can't pay everyone top dollar. At some point, people are going to have to go. And it's just the reality of the league. And it's so hard to stay competitive. The key thing, the way you win in the NFL is finding that balance. Finding that balance between guys you're paying and finding value in draft picks. That's why it's so critical to hit on draft picks in this league. Mason Blackman do a long-term deal as the best wide receiver free agent. I'm not sure what WR stands for. Maybe it's Whiskey Wrangler, because that's the only free agency he's the top guy at is Justin Blackman. Whiskey Wrangler, because he's an alcoholic. No. Having too many dudes to sign is the best problem in the world. It's the best problem in the world. It means your team's great. It means your team's great, and you've drafted like a genius, and you've got too many good players. Everybody wishes they were in that scenario. Try to remember where you were 5 years ago, Jaguar fans, when you didn't have 5 players on this team you gave a rat's ass if you kept, because they were all trash. It was a roster full of trash players. And now you're in a position where you've got too many dudes, and you got to figure out which ones are the right ones to pay and which ones you got to regretfully let walk. It's such a good problem to have, and hopefully, there's a lot of teams that have this problem and they don't get the cookie, they don't finish it, they don't go get the biscuit. So the big thing is to go get the biscuit, man. Get the title, get it, go get the trophy, and then figure it out. Because winning one Super Bowl is hard enough, so go win it. Go win one, and then figure it out. Because I guarantee most of the fans of this team are going to be a lot more compliant and accepting of tough personnel decisions when you've got a banner hanging up down at TIAA Bank Field. This is Super Bowl champs. Then if you got to let a guy walk, you say thanks for everything. Thanks for the memories. Big slap on the butt. Happy trails. Good luck to you. And you keep on trucking. Because that's the way it is in this league, man. It's a cold thing. Yeah. See, exactly, Matthew. We're not that far. It's not that long ago that Mike Thomas was the best receiver on this team. It's not that long ago. And it may not be that long till those type of days are back. And that's just the reality of it. You know? You choose wrong on the guys to pay, or dudes get hurt, or dudes just, the production falls off. The gap between 6-10 and 10-6 is it's super easy to become a bad team in the NFL. Super easy. It's such a tough league. That's why drafting is so critical. Well. Look who's joined us to watch live from the Appalachian ER, probably having a pine cone removed from his ass. It's Drew Hicken. Hello, Drew. Yes, that's all we want, man. Yeah, we don't want 108 years before a title, Matthew. That's right. Yeah, I'm a diehard Cubs fan, and I wasn't alive for all 108, mercifully, or I probably would have died. But yeah, 108 years is a long time to go without a title. But I mean, look, man. Look at Cleveland. Look at Buffalo. Look at the Chargers. It's a long damn time. Look at Oakland. It's a long damn time. Detroit. Long damn time. Minnesota. Long ass time. Those fans been waiting for a Super Bowl title. They've had some good teams in some of those markets. Go back and look at that 1998 Vikings team when you get a chance. Go on to Pro Football Reference. Pull up that 1998 Vikings team. You tell me how that damn team didn't bring home the cookie. How? They didn't. They didn't even get to the bowl, guys. They didn't even get to the bowl. They lost. They lost to the Falcons, who then just got absolutely railed by the Broncos. That Vikings team was incredible. They didn't get there. Chargers have had great teams. Didn't get there. Look at the Chiefs. How long has it been for the Chiefs? They had great teams. 99 Jags. Didn't even get to the bowl. Great team. Spectacular team. Loaded with Pro Bowlers. A couple of should-be Hall of Famers. Couldn't get there. It's so hard. It is so hard to just get to the Super Bowl, man. I think people take it for granted, especially when you're in a city where you've been successful for a long time and you've been doing it. And I'm not taking anything away from New England fans. It's a regional thing. If you grew up there, that's your team. That's great. Good for you. But they've been very fortunate and very spoiled with what they've had in the last 15 years with Brady and Belichick. Brady and Belichick make it look a lot easier than it is, man. It is hard as hell to go win the Super Bowl. It really is. And it just do it. Go get it. Because everything else is gravy. Tough decisions, separations from guys you've grown to love as players. It's a lot easier when you got a banner hanging up in your stadium. Ask those Vikings fans in 1998. They've got real fond memories of Randy Moss, but they got nothing to show for it. Not a damn thing. Nothing. And I don't want that to be the case here. I don't want Jag fans to look back in 15 years and go, my God, remember the 2018 Jags? Wow, they were really good. Couldn't quite get there. Hopefully it's not the case. This team looks like they've got their head on their shoulders. They're getting it done right now. We're early in the season, man, but I feel like they've got the right guys in place. They've got the right group, in the front office running the show. This is as good as it's going to get. This is the best team you're going to have. It's maybe the best, outside of 99, maybe the best team they've ever had here. This is it. Now's the time. Hopefully they can get it done. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Drew will be back, hopefully. Hopefully he doesn't die wherever he is. I don't know. Again, I have no idea how severe this malady is that Drew's dealing with. He could be on death's door. I don't know. He didn't disclose much with me via text message, and I don't want to violate HIPAA laws, so I won't reveal the very few scandalous details he did share. But get well, Drew. We hope you're back tomorrow, and I'll be here either way because, unlike Drew Hicken, this guy grinds. See you, Googans.